Man, that's so crazy that you got me thinking about cavemen and women, because you know how the generation is now. I gotta be, politically correct. I don't think they're worried about that back in the day. But we're so in the future with like AI, technology, just being embedded with such blissful information and over information that can kind of cause us to overthink.
Yes.
Now that at this time you finished high school, now it's time to go to college and embrace the real world. Or would you call that the real world?
No.
Did anything prepare you for the next coming chapters of your life?
No, not at all. And I'll tell you exactly why. When you grow up and you get straight A's in school and you're an overachiever and everyone's telling you good job, good job, good job, you get all the awards, you go to college. I went to college with a scholarship. I loved all my teachers. They loved me. Like, I was always like top of my class. Like, I always wanted to, again, be the overachiever. Mind you, it's in the arts, so it's subjective. I'm thinking, man, I came here, I am set. I'm gonna have it so easy when I graduate, because I've just dominated these schools. The opposite happened. The complete opposite. I didn't get a job immediately. It took me a while to find a job. When I did get a job, I got laid off within 3 months. And I remember calling my mom and being like, that's it, I'm done. I found a job. I made it. And got laid off after 3 months. Took a while to find a job after that. And a lot of the reason for the transition was because when I studied in college, I studied predominantly print. And right when I graduated, that's when websites were becoming a thing, HTML, CSS, web design, product design. We got no training behind that. So after school, I was trying to find all these print jobs because that was what I knew, and neglected to study what I should have been studying, which is how to code, how to design, etc. And I really didn't want to code. I really didn't. I was just like, that's a whole other train of thought.
But it's expressing your creativity.
It is, but the interesting thing about coding is that it's a much more analytical way, and it's a different level of gratification that you get from it. With coding, you're trying and failing, like constantly all the time. And then you code and you see your thing come up on screen and you're like, man, that's awesome, I coded that. With design, it's a similar process where, you're moving things around and you're trying, failing, but you're seeing as these changes happen in real time. Mind you, I know nowadays there's technology where you can code and you could see what's happening at the same time. When I was learning how to code, you had to code into a text editor and essentially put it live and hope to God something will show up. And so I hated it because I was just like, I want instant gratification. I'm a millennial. Come on. I want things to happen now. And so finally, after I ended up getting a job in this huge corporation, this huge architecture engineering firm. It was 100 years old. An obscene amount of coworkers, but I was one of the few designers, and everyone around me was from an older generation. So I was constantly teaching people what design was, trying to say, let's use this typeface, it's a little bit more modern, and they were very strict, adding onto the layer of them being architects and engineers. And so I was straying away from the more creative side and falling into design being this just thing, nice to have at a company, essentially. And that I was miserable. That was a very tough time. I did the 9 to 5. I had to wear the uniform and it was fine, but I wasn't tapping into that creative side. And I was also feeling like a huge failure because I was just like, why do I not have the top job? I was the top student in school, by all means. I got straight A's. I got a scholarship. Come on. And I realized that I was running into my entitlement because I thought I deserved it. And the reality is that I'm not that special. I'm really not. I'm just some guy. I am some guy who's been able to tap into his creativity and use it as a career, but the entitlement that came with it was really working against me because I was just, it was like, well, I'm way better than this job. I'm way better than these other designers. I'm way better. And I'm not. I'm not, because I'm not putting in the work. I'm just sitting there and expecting it to come to me. And so something shifted in my mind after working in that firm, because there was just this growing desire to create things that were far outside of this like conservative mindset. And so I joined by a stroke of luck, honestly, or just miracles that constantly happen in my life. I joined a startup environmental design firm. And the crazy thing about that position is that I joined as a web designer, not having a single ounce of web design experience at all. I had never coded anything before that. I had never designed for web before that. And because during that interview, they were so impressed with me, I will never forget the director or the creative director at the time came in the room and he was like, I know you've never designed anything for the web. You'll learn on the job. It's fine. Mind you, all of my coworkers were colleagues of mine from MICA, Maryland Institute College of Art, up in Baltimore. That's where I went to school. And so I was like, I'm working with these amazing artists and creatives, and I have never done what I'm about to take a job doing. Oh my God. Insane.
Adaptability.
1000%. I had no choice. No choice. I had to learn how to code, whether I liked it or not. I did every free course you can imagine, HTML, CSS. I designed in Photoshop because there weren't any web design, ideal web design programs at the time. Now there's Sketch and Adobe XD. Like now it's more catered towards product designers. But at the time I was using Photoshop, which I hated to design in. And I was coding, and I had real clients that had real needs. And I pushed myself to a degree that I really didn't even think I could. And so that experience gave me confidence, because what ended up happening is that I had a friend who worked in Washington, D.C. for a tech startup when tech startups were starting to be a thing. And he was a good friend of mine at the time, and he was like, look, we're around 30 people. We have a design. They had a marketing designer. He's young in his career. We need someone to lead design. Do you want to do it? I was like, sure. What can possibly, I have the skill set for this. Absolutely. Never done product design in my life. Ever. And the first project that I got when I joined that company was to design the tablet mobile version of essentially hospitality software. You can plan events and drag tables and seat people in this software. They did it for a computer. Now I had to make it for the iPad. Never, ever have done anything like that. And that was the first thing that I had to work on. They trusted everything I said and did. I did my research. I learned from web design. I learned from best practices. And I really had to trust my instinct. And on top of that, they let go of the designer that at the time, or actually, I think sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm talking to myself. No, he ended up leaving, I think. I think he went to study or he moved or something like that. So they were like, you're going to do the marketing design too. So I had to brand the company. I had to create rules for the color use, for the type use, for how it translated from one product to another. I can't, even saying it out loud, I still can't believe I did that. In the middle of Washington, D.C., an actual, city, and the tech startup was succeeding in what they were doing. We were getting clients left and right. The team was growing faster. I was the only designer for, I think, around 2 years. And that taught me so much about myself, so much about how my leadership qualities, so much about what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, my communication skills, my temperament. It completely reshaped my identity as a designer. And what really, really did it for me was when I had to manage other designers. And I always say this story because it's important for people to understand. I had never managed anyone in my life, ever. Like, I was everyone's like, you're such a natural leader, whatever. Fine.
That's a pat on the back.
And
because being a leader is like...
And look,
I suck as a leader. People go to me, and it's just like, you need a team. If you don't have a team, you can't accomplish your dream. And I'm just like, you see, like, the way that my checking and my savings is set up, sorry, I can't pay the staff.
Right.
But ultimately, when I do have the opportunity to fuel external resources like employees, I never call them employees, they're co-collaborators.
Right. Sure, exactly.
But it's like, I need you to do this and this and this, and sometimes I can't find them. And it's like, I'm in the midst of madness, and ultimately it's like, to me, like, I suffer. like giving like, I give you power, do whatever you want, sort of,
right? Sort of,
like, here's a shot list, go have fun and do your thing, but like, I have to double everybody. Right. I don't know if it's like I have a strong inability to trust people.
It could be,
but it could also be like I lack communication. That's why I like this podcast. I'm able to listen and communicate, but it's tough being a leader.
It's I can tell you that you probably identified what it could be, and it's all trust. And trust is measurable. You can actually measure trust between one person and another through like psychological techniques that I actually help my clients with. But the way I learned that was when I was asked to form a team. Our team, we had switched offices. Our team had grown astronomically. Like, we were doing really, really well. And I wasn't able to handle 5 different products, 5 different product managers, the brand, constant, out of left field projects. I was just like a robot. Like, I was just going. And I was often burned out, and I was drinking a lot and doing drugs a lot, because what happens is that you start numbing that feeling of just like the world is about to cave in on you. And so I wasn't in a good place mentally. And my first thought was, let me hire another designer, because they're going to take on what I can't. And so it took me ranging between 6 months to a year to find the first designer. And I looked at hundreds of resumes, and I was just like, I don't care. Most of them were very honestly, very just like, I'm a designer and I know how to design. And I was just like, I was waiting for that like spark. I wasn't waiting for experience or anything like that. Yeah. Just some sort of connection. The girl that I ended up hiring, her work and her personality were the same. Like, her use of color was part of who she was. The way she expressed her use of her compositions and why she chose one button over another or a typeface over another, they were testaments of her personality. Like, to me, there was no difference. Like, her creativity was her. And I noticed it immediately, and she didn't have a lot of experience, but I immediately, not convinced, I shouldn't say that, but I fought to hire her a lot, because of course the higher ups were looking for the Google designers, the Facebook designers. Like, we want experience.
Persuade.
Yeah.
Influence.
Yes. And I influenced the decision by saying that design was so much more about what story you're telling with your work and your self-awareness than it is your experience. And so I gave her a chance, and to this day, she set such a high bar. She really did. And the way I really learned about my identity as a leader, as a designer, as everything, is because I had to come face to face with my own entitlement, which I've been talking about, that came from school. I was managing her. I thought everything was great. I was like, I'm giving her tasks. She's doing them. I'm doing my tasks.
You're making it sound like Siri. You're lining up notifications and reminders for me.
Truly.
I appreciate that.
I was a robot at that time.
Yeah. You're reminding me to breathe.
Yeah.
You're checking my calories. I appreciate you.
Truly.
Oh, how many cups of water did I have? Okay. Thank you for keeping me on track.
Basically.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was like, you got what you're doing. I got what I'm doing. We don't even need to talk. Honestly, we're good. We're good. All the numbers are being hit. And my entitled ass went to the VP of product at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna ask him to be promoted to creative director because I deserve it. I've been here since the beginning. I've done all these products, and of course my friends at the time were like, hell yeah, you deserve it. You deserve the paycheck, you deserve the benefits, like go for it. And I went into the room and I asked him, I was like, I don't know what you need to do, but I'm going to be creative director. And he looked at me and he was like, Julian, you didn't get good reviews as a manager. And I thought the silence that I experienced in that moment, I'll never forget it. I remember the day so clearly. I remember the building I was looking at. Everything went quiet because I could not believe that he said that. I thought I had this relationship with I gave her a chance. Like, she was doing all these amazing designs. And I was like, why? I just don't understand that. And he said, I don't know, like, she didn't give you good reviews. And I remember going to talk to her after, and of course I wasn't going to be like, why didn't you give me good reviews? Like, that's private. In fact, him telling me that is probably, like, in that way was probably not, the nature of tech startups. Where everyone's like just like talking and crossing a lot of boundaries. And I remember going up to her and saying, hey, listen, I was going through a lot at the time, and I was like, I apologize if any of that came through. And long story short, and it ended up being that I wasn't listening. She was telling me the whole time. She was overwhelmed many times with projects. She was telling me, hey, I'm having communication problems with XYZ. Yeah, I trust you, figure it out. But the listening aspect of it was completely foreign to me. I thought being a good leader was, I'm going to tell you what to do, and you do it, and we both keep our jobs. That is not a good leader. That is fear-based leadership, and that has no place in any company, because what's going to happen is that it's going to create resentment, and you will not get what you want. Like, it's just not part of the equation. You're scaring someone into doing things, which as creatives, who wants to create when they're afraid? You want to enjoy when you're creating. You don't want to be like, have a gun to your head and be like, you got to do this or you're in trouble. And so what that taught me is that leadership is about empathy and about understanding that you came to an agreement with that person to grow together. It's very much like a relationship. We're in this together now. We're a team. We're a team within a much larger organization, much larger team. We need to know what our needs are. I need to know what your values are. I need to know what makes you inspired when you feel burnt out. I need to communicate with you at a level that is so far beyond just you being an employee. And I just truly, by being a terrible manager, I learned what it is to be a good manager. And it's not, fear is just not part of it. That person should feel that there's a connection, enough of a connection for them to be able to open up to you about what they're actually feeling, what they're going through, what's stopping them. There's just so many layers to it. And that's why I say that trust should be the fundamental thing that you're building between you and that person. It's pretty incredible how, like, that I had to learn in that way. And I think ever since, especially with a lot of the leaders that I work with that manage creatives or manage creative processes, because a product manager in the tech field, they work with designers, like an engineering lead, they work with designers. A lot of it is trust and communication. And it's just about creating channels where people feel safe to tell their stories And that's exactly why I coach and why I put it around the story, because it's our stories. It's what we bring to the table. It's not just bullet points on a resume. It's not. We are so far beyond that. We're putting our lives out there. We're exposing things that we didn't in the past. In the past, that's what it was. If I met you, I didn't see you on social media. I didn't go on your LinkedIn page. I saw the sheet of paper, kind of read through it, and I was like, all right, well, yeah, try, do the job. Now it's about connection. It's about self-awareness. It's about high emotional intelligence. There's so many psychological things that go into it that unless you pay attention and become self-aware of what your story is, and how you connect to other people and what your love languages are and what your traumas are, there is no way you will be a good leader, because you will not know how to empathize. Like, you need to be clear on what you've gone through so that when that person goes through what they're going through, that's blocking them from being able to authentically create something, you can be there. You can stand there as a leader and be like, I got you. And so that transformed my perspective completely. From being just a production designer to being a creative leader, coach, whatever, just transcending, just doing. It's the meaning behind it, it's the why behind it.
So I hope you guys love this video and the videos that I have been producing.
Let's go.
I love the people, I love the guests. If there's any feedback that you would like to give me, please let me know in the comments below.
Yes.
If you can please subscribe. If there's any way that I can improve on it, let me know. I'll be glad to hear it. And I also want to know what's on your mind. This is an ongoing conversation.
Let's go.
I want to, understand you guys more. I want to provide more value, more content for you.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that I can do, just please let me know. I'll gladly help out to the best of my abilities to provide you this content.
You're crushing it, bro. Let's go.